The fifth phase of our precision hunting rifle build will involve bedding of the stock to the barreled action. The purpose of bedding is to remove any play or slop between the barreled action and the stock itself. This will also give a nice one-to-one fit between the two components. Ultimately, we're looking for consistency so that shot to shot, the barreled action and the stock won't shift or move or have any basically play in it. This will provide for a better, more accurate rifle. So I'm here at the milling machine. I've got the stock installed in the vise. And what I'm going to do is take the end mill here and basically relieve some of the material out of the stock itself to allow the bedding compound to, number one, stick and also give it somewhere to flow to and fill up in these cavities here. Now that I've got the relief cuts made, next I'm going to take some modeling clay and dam up the areas that I don't want the epoxy to flow into. Now that I've got the modeling clay in the areas I don't want the epoxy to flow into, I'm going to do the same thing with some masking tape. Basically mask off the outside of the stock so that any spillover won't get on the stock. And I will also be putting release agent on the steel parts. Basically, whatever I don't want the epoxy to stick to will not stick to it, only in the stock. Cool, now that I've got the stock completely masked off and the release agent applied to the steel parts that I don't want the compound to stick to, and so that we can remove this barreled action from the stock in the future, I'm going to begin mixing up the compound. It's a two-part compound, equal parts of a hardener and a resin. I'm going to add a little bit of black dye to match the stock color, and this is a bit of a thickening agent that'll actually prevent it from spilling out too much. All right, I like to start in the back tang area. And this just gets enough to fill in the little cuts we made and give that rear tang a pad to sit on essentially. And careful not to get it down into the pillar hole. But if a little goes in there, that's no problem. All right, I like that. Now I'm just going to basically fill up this recoil lug area and about an inch ahead of the recoil lug area just to give the shank of the barrel something to hold or rest onto. So I'm filling in the recoil lug area here, and ideally we're looking to get a perfect union between the stock and the barreled action. And by using this compound, it will cure and mold exactly to the rifle. I'm always checking. I don't want any bubbles or voids, so you'll see me kind of poking at it. I don't want to work it too much, but just make sure there's no bubbles that are going to happen. And that I've got nice full contact in all these crevices. So that as I put the barreled action in, all this will ooze out, and I know I've got full coverage. All right, I'm ready to drop the barreled action into the stock. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Make sure we're lined up right. And down she goes. Now, all this oozing out, that's a real good sign. That means that we've got plenty in there. This is definitely, the more the better. Now I'm going to do the front action screw. And I'm just going to get that started. I'm not going to tighten it yet. And rear action screw goes in. And we got epoxy oozing out here too. It's a good sign. And again, not tight, just snug. And the reason for that is that I don't want to squeeze out too much. I want to basically replace all the material and give it just that little bit of a pad of epoxy to rest on rather than the bare stock, so that the bedding does its job. So that's snug. This one's snug. And where I'm going to get my torque, per se, is my surgical tubing. I'm going to wrap the entire action to the stock itself. Rather than torquing down on the action screws, we'll pull everything down together with the band, which will give it a nice even clamping pressure. Before I do that, I'm going to clean up a little bit of this overflow just to make my life easier later when it's cured. All right, I'm going to let this guy sit overnight. I like to give it at least 24 hours to cure, make sure everything's bonded together properly and turns out good. But it just so happens that I'm building an identical rifle to this one, so it's beneficial to be able to show you what we're looking for in the end result. So first I'd like to show you the bottom of the receiver and some features to point out. Over here we've got the Remington lettering, some other stamping and lettering, a QR code of some sort here, and then back at the back of the rear tang we've got this band, and basically this is the area that we've bedded here. So that should be a direct mirror image of this stuff basically into the bedding. So we'll show you the bedding on the stock portion. Again, we've got the Remington lettering up here, the QR code, perfect imprint, nice smooth bedding there. Got basically full one-to-one contact there. And then at the rear, there's that band and this section here. This will be cleaned up just a little bit more later for the final product, but this is exactly what we're looking for here, and a little bit ahead of the barrel. Okay, so this is just another service that we'll provide here for you at Wyoming Gun Company.